Okay, I'm going to try and do a quick video on this Reate Kirby Lambert. It's my latest acquisition. I really do like the knife, but there are three things that bother me about it a little bit. I love the overall look. I love the way it functions. I love the blade. I love the grinds. There's three little things, though, I wanted to mention. You might see the flipper tab already. We'll get to that in a minute. The first thing I want to do is go from the inside out. So the bearings. There was another disassembly video made on this knife, and it was a really good video. I'm going to turn this light off here for a minute, or maybe just get it out of the way. I want to talk about the bearing that's in this knife. Some of the advertising just say it's a ceramic bearing. Some say it's a dual row ceramic bearing, which it is not. It's what it is. The bearing that's in this is this bearing right here. It is a black plastic race with 10 balls in it. And it's roughly, the ID is 6 millimeters. The OD is a little under 12. It's kind of a small bearing to put in this knife. A lot of the other import knives use this white plastic race bearing with a dual row. It's a better bearing. It's got a lot more balls in it. It's the same price. You know, the other one, the one used in this knife, they cost $4.60 a piece. Okay, so that's under $10 for the bearings in this knife. Like I said, a lot of the other ones, although we can't use these because they're a little bit larger, the ones in the knife are a little under 12 millimeters, and that's all there's room for. I would like to have these white ones in there, at least a partial upgrade, or better yet is this style. But you can't use these because the OD, if you can see here, is 13.7 millimeters. Oh, I'm not sure if I'm catching this on the camera very well. Whoops. These are a lot nicer bearings. There you go. Looks like a copper or brass race, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18 bearings. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6 times 3, 18 balls in there in a brass race. So a much better bearing for $7.27 a piece. They could have upgraded to this bearing, but they did not. If they would have made another 1.7 millimeters in the diameter of the bearing, you would have had your choice of what better bearing you wanted to use in this knife. But instead they did not do that. I don't know why. They could have so easily made the bearing diameter and the bearing bore on these pieces inside this knife just a hair bigger, and we wouldn't have been stuck with these bearings. On a bright note, though, if you want to buy replacements, you can get them for $4.60 a piece. So under 10 bucks, you can have a pair of these bearings in waiting should you ever need them. Alright, well, enough about the bearing. I was a little bit let down because when I bought this knife, what I was reading was that it had a dual row ceramic bearing, and that's what I was expecting, but it's not really what I got. So I was a little bit let down on that, which is why I'm voicing it here and putting it on this video. If you think you're getting a nice dual row ceramic bearing, one of the ones where you can pick and choose which one you want from AliExpress and get a nice little upgrade, you know, 18 or 21 balls in a brass race, you can't do that. You're stuck with a little plastic race with 10 ceramic balls in it, single row. All right, enough of that. There was also on the other disassembly video, somebody mentioned the sharp corners. And where those are located is right here on the point of this carbon fiber and right here along this edge. And if you can see, I think you can see that I've knocked that edge down. I had this knife apart today, so I took a little wooden block and some 1500 paper and I broke this edge right here. It was very sharp. It was like a knife sharp. It would grab your skin when you were handling this knife. That point was very sharp, and this edge would just grab your skin. It was a straight 90 degree. I mean, it was a sharp edge. Now the edge is broken. Doesn't bother me near as much. It's nice now, especially when the knife is locked open and this part drops down. You really felt that edge right there. Third thing I didn't like is the flipper tab, obviously. It was hard to press straight down in the push button mode, and it had a really sharp edge on it when you tried to light switch it. And it was insanely big. Didn't like it. I wanted it more like, I made it more like a Shirogorov, however you say it. That's how I made the profile right here. Take a look at it. You can see what's left of the M390. You can see most of the 390. And it's got a nice little sweeping edge back here. Nice rounded edge. And I rounded the corner of it, or the tip of it. Made a nice radius on the tip of it too. So there's no sharp edges on there now. Also did the jimping. It's my first attempt at jimping, and I think it looks pretty decent. I'll show you what I used here. Didn't go very deep at all, just enough to do normal jimping. I watched some other videos and I've seen people that went too deep, and I didn't want to do that, so I did Shirogorov style flipper tab. What I used to make that, yeah, now we're in trouble. Keep the knife right here. It's going to be out of focus, but I wanted to show you. Hopefully this will be in focus. Dremel cutoff wheel, number 409. It's very, very, very thin. It's 36 in here. You only need one. You don't even need a whole one. But you do need a number 409 Dremel to do what I did right there. And it's for zeroed out, roughly 0.025 thickness, 0.025 thickness on this cutoff wheel. It's probably the thinnest one you can get. So I actually took the knife apart. I had the blade. I put some paper, wrapped it with masking tape and whatnot. I actually did the profile here, the shaping on the bench grinder. Very carefully, slowly, did it on a bench grinder, tried to make it nice and rounded. I also had some wooden block and various grades of sandpaper, you know, to smooth it out, make it look nice. Kind of professionally done before I mounted this in a vise, naturally with something soft to grip it so I didn't damage it. And then I cut my slots here with the Dremel. I didn't want to use a checkering file or anything like that. This is all you need if you're only going to do 4, like I'm trying to show you here. So that was it. I don't like the bearing, and there's nothing I can do about it because they didn't squeeze another millimeter Another 1.7 millimeters for the bearing diameter, which they could have done in this knife. And that would have been a great thing. A $350, $375 knife with the smallest plastic bearings that we can put in it, and we can upgrade it. You can't go with the other bearings and turn the OD down because then they fall apart just the way they're constructed. I looked at them. I didn't buy them and try it. I looked at them, and you can't get a 2 or 3 row and turn down the OD of it. It just won't work. I could not find one that would work to do that. I would have liked to improve the bearings. Can't do it. Anyway, love the way the flipper tab works now. I do not like my knives. I'm probably going to hit the box or something, or the camera. I don't like my knives to fall shut on my fingers. So I tightened up the pivot. I mean, it's smooth, but I can flip it open like that, no problem. I don't like it falling shut on my fingers. I don't like being able to do this. See, it's why I gave it a little bit extra tightness through here. It's a brand new knife. It's going to break in a little bit. I can still easily flip it open, but I like having to close it manually. If you want it to fall shut on your fingers, that's fine. Back off here about 1/8 of a turn and it'll do that for you. Me, I don't like that, so I tightened it up and put some blue Loctite on it. So that's the way it's going to stay. Just wanted to show you this insanely good flipper tab now. It's not an eyesore. Nice and rounded. Let me get my hands in the right place. It's got pretty nice jimping for my very first ever attempt at jimping. It's shaped a lot like a Shiragarov 95, or I'm sure a lot of other knives. You can see roughly how much I took off by what's left of the 390. And yes, it's easy to hit that cardboard box. It's easy to do that, okay? There are no sharp corners here. There are no hot spots. There's just 4 grooves that grip my finger now. Perfect. That's all you needed to do. They did not need to have a surface this way and a surface on top.